most people have never heard of this, even agents that are in the financial space. This has really been utilized by people that make 25 million or more for years. Our track record for the past 10 years is 9.53% returns on this product every year.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Stephanie Walter. She's a wealth strategist, author, CEO of ERBE Wealth. With her expertise and passion for teaching, Stephanie helps professional individuals unlearn conventional money thinking and unlock the secrets of wealthy investors. Her journey includes a recent retirement and sale of her insurance agency, allowing her to focus on educating others about the unique perspectives of the wealthy. She's discovered that the affluent approach to money differently, actively putting their assets to work, strategically mitigating risk, and utilizing leverage to accelerate wealth growth and securing tax-free income in retirement. So she's going to bring a few of those strategies to the show today that she's learned that, hey, the ultra wealthy do these things, have been doing these things, and now some of that is available, to the not so ultra wealthy, I guess you could say, but that you would never know about, right? Unless somebody like her or is telling you, right, or bringing it out that, hey, this is what the wealthy do, and there's no reason you're not doing it as well. So she's on a mission to expose people to this, right, the alternate ways of investing and offering insights, knowledge that can transform your financial outcomes. She's going to mention a few stats as well that are pretty eye-opening, and so enjoy the show. We are all thinking about the future, right? And hopefully you are thinking about many years from now, not just 6 months from now, and what your finances look like. That word tax always comes up in our conversations at times, or probably not often enough as far as planning and being really good at planning. But our guest today has some strategies that I think all of us need to be aware of. And she's written a book recently that's going to help us to better understand those things. Welcome back to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Stephanie, update the listeners a little bit about who you are, your background. You're a wealth strategist, author, numerous things that you've done that's helped you to get to where you're at now to help us, and others with building wealth and doing it well and tactfully. But tell them a little more about your background.
Yeah, I was an insurance agent for about 16 years. But while in about 2016, I started doing real estate syndications, and I was sort of the partner in the group that raised the money. So I dealt with a lot of wealthy investors and got to know them pretty well. We have about 300 million of assets under management, and I'm now sort of transitioning into this, I guess, second phase of my career where I've written a book to kind of make people aware of what the wealthy are doing with their money, because it's very different than what we're doing with our money. Yeah, so I wrote this book, and now I'm just trying to get out and talk to people about some strategies that they might not be aware of.
Yeah, well, let's dive into a few of those strategies, right? I'm sure there's many myths that come along with wealth building as well. Why don't we talk about some of the myths, and we'll dive into some of the specific strategies as well?
Well, I think a really important myth that I address a lot is that you need to invest in people say, oh, well, the person got wealthy because they invested in very high risk investments, and that's why they got all their money. But actually, nothing could be further from the truth. And I'm sure you're aware of that too, dealing with investors, is the wealthy ones are very, very concerned with the risks and understanding everything that's involved with an investment. They do that with real estate. They do that with everything. They try to actually have an asymmetric return, really is more realistic to what an investor wants. They want a very large return for a very small amount of their money that they put in. And that is a big part of it. I know part of my book, I go into just what losses, just plain old losses, do to your portfolio. And maybe a lot of people don't really think about that, but that is super impactful when you're, let's say the stock market last year went down 25%. Well, they say, well, I'll just need another for the stock market to go up 25% this year. That's actually not true. They need a return of 50% just to get them back to normal. And that can take years and years and years.
Yeah. Wow. That's probably not good news.
Yeah. No.
For most. But yeah, often we do believe it has to be something high risk to get the high return. And I think the people they become wealthy, right? It's because they have taken the time to analyze those risks and the returns, and in their specific portfolio. Maybe is there another a myth maybe we could discuss before we dive into a strategy?
Knowing, I guess, what losses do to your portfolio. And actually, not only that, but probably a little bit more. I dive pretty in depth about the 401k, and just being aware of what fees do to your returns as well. Because I think it's in my book, but I believe it's that 80 to 90% of people don't even know they're being charged fees on their 401ks. And I go through like a step by step of 3 people. And the fees are 1% for one person, 2% for the other person, 3% for the final person, and just show what that looks like over time. And it is hugely and crazy of what those compounding fees do to the returns and what they think they'll be getting out of their 401k. So I just try to make people aware of what those fees are, and if they want to stay in the 401k, what they can do to, get into low risk without fees being assessed to them.
Yeah.
Or very low fees anyways.
Yeah, it's interesting that higher percentage don't even know that they're being charged a fee, and then you don't really think about how that affects you long term, right? So, all right, let's get into some strategies. I know, the tax treatment diversification. That's one, maybe, but is that a strategy that we should dive into right now, or what would be the maybe top strategy that you would want to highlight?
Well, I think it's really important. And again, we both have seen this with real estate, is that real estate is more a tax advantage product. So people really get some great tax advantages from working with real estate. But then there is the 401k, which by and large, most everyone does. And that's tax deferment, And what I'm bringing to light is that it's really important to have your money in a few different buckets, maybe a little bit in the tax advantage, which is real estate, tax deferment, which is your 401k, but tax-free bucket is usually something that is not utilized at all. Because really people think the only way that they can take advantage of that is through a Roth IRA or 401k, which they have to, usually it excludes people that make higher incomes, like 100,000 or more. But what I found is that there are some strategies that the wealthy use to kind of get around that and be able to have a lot of tax-free income when they retire.
Maybe give us an example, or let's think through that a little bit.
The product that I'm talking about is it's a premium finance life insurance. Now everybody freaks out when they hear the word life insurance. But actually this is a most people have never heard of this, even agents that are in the financial space. This has really been utilized by people that make 25 million or more for years. And it functions very much like a real estate product in that you go in and the bank will pay, probably 75 to 80% of the premium on this policy. And then you leverage into this large investment with only 20 to 25% of a down payment. And then this policy grows. The way that it grows is that it is linked to the stock market and that it only takes the ups, but it doesn't take, if there's a loss like last year, if it's a 25% loss, they get a zero. You just a plain zero. And I could go into more detail about how the insurance company is able to do that. But basically think of it as a way, say you leverage into $1 million real estate product, you put $200,000 down. Now say that real estate goes up 8% in the year. You don't make 8% on your 200,000, you make 8% on the $1 million, which is exactly how this product works, except it is not real estate. So you don't have to worry about any kind of losses that would be associated or risks associated with the real estate, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how would somebody learn about something like that, or even start, using a platform like that?
Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of information about this product because it has been reserved for the extremely wealthy. You can contact me, or you can, look around on the internet. There's not, like I said, a great deal of information. It's called premium financed insurance. And what they have opened this product up in the last few years to accredited investors. So if you can prove that you have a net worth of $1 million, this is definitely a cool strategy to look into.
What's the risk for that?
The risks are if, say, the market doesn't go up, like if we had like 10 years of 0% returns, which has never happened, that could be something. Also, interest rates do affect this product. Well, it's just like a loan, like anything else for real estate. So we try to get them in the best loan possible, lock them in for a few years. But this is a different product in the sense that we're looking at it on an annual basis to be sure that, yes, they are in the right loan, the lowest loan they can get. And let's see, what did the market do this year? Our track record for the past 10 years is 9.53% returns on this product every year. But the key is that when you leverage the money in, you leverage about $1 million in from the bank, it grows like gangbusters. And then the person is able to get the loan out, or they're able to get money out when they retire tax-free, which is very significant because the money grows tax-free while in the product, and then it's distributed tax-free.
All right. I wanted you to be able to hit the tax treatment diversification as well. And like, what is that and why should we care?
I usually say we have like 3 buckets of money. We've got money that's just maybe sitting in your savings and growing at, a small rate, but then you're taxed every year on that. So that's taxable money. The second one is tax deferred money. That's your 401k. That's what majority of people have. And then the tax-free bucket is money that comes to you tax-free in retirement.
Okay. And I don't know, any other thoughts around strategies that we should be investigating or even learning from you that maybe we hadn't thought of? I mean, somebody having a salary of 25 million or more, they are in a different category than most, right? And there's different things that they need, but and that we wouldn't be exposed to. What would be something else?
I think it's sort of a mindset shift, is that people that have money are aware that, like, when they retire, or if they get to the point of wanting to retire, they think about how much money they need or how much cash flow they need coming in for them. And that can actually take many forms. As I thought that most people that invested in real estate, that was all they did. But you see these strategies in which they leverage money in, like I said, with this the premium finance life insurance product, but they also take advantage of annuities. Annuities is something only an insurance company can sell, but basically they give off guaranteed lifetime income. And so people are more thinking about not necessarily, they have their assets, that are out there, but they try to look at what they need to do to make those assets produce income. And I think that's a huge thing that most people don't think of. They think of, I'm going to save and save and save in my 401k or whatever method, and I'll have this big pile of money, maybe $1 million when I'm ready to retire. But most people, most wealth strategists or even financial planners don't really talk about what happens after that. And I was just in my book, I think I referenced this, that Morningstar is a consulting firm, and they did a survey of how much money you should expect to get out of your 401k if you have $1 million in it. You'd be pretty surprised at the answer. I think they said most baby boomers think it's 8%. Actually, that number is 2.8%. So if you have $1 million, you can expect to take $28,000 out of that and possibly, hopefully, not run out of money. So that's why it's important to look at these different income producing strategies. I think, anyways.
Yeah. 2.8 is very different than 8.
Yeah.
Wow. And just being, I mean, how can they find some, I guess, realistic numbers like that? I mean, obviously talking to somebody like yourself, but man, I guess as hard news as that is, better earlier than later, right?
It is. And I think actually the industry is coming around a little bit, because we've got a few things going on. We've got longevity, which people are living longer than they ever have lived before. Social Security, we're not really sure of the stability of that. And then another thing that people don't think about is if they keep their money in the market, solely in the market, and then they have a significant loss right before they retire, or they have a loss several years in, that can affect how much money they can realistically take out. So yeah, I would say you could go on the internet. There's so many resources. I apologize. I was reading something and I don't remember the source of it, but it was like a Morgan Stanley or something like that, where they were saying they think people should shoot for taking 2% out. And so, there's so many resources on the internet, good and bad information, but it's important. I think people think they're going to retire, but they don't give a lot of thought to it, like a lot of things in our lives. And then they realize that they haven't planned for it. And that's kind of the kiss of death. If you don't plan based on taxes, and just plan based on your income that you want to have in retirement, those are really important things to do.
Yeah, and it's going to be very different depending on how old you are, right? And maybe what would be a suggestion for the 20-year-old versus the 40-year-old?
The 20-year-old has so much time on their hands. So that is truly, when I guess the average person that I do the premium financed insurance on is someone who's 50 years old. But I've done a few in the last few years that are for people in their 30s. And just even a few years of difference make such a huge impact. But I mean, if you're 20 and you're just starting out, I mean, it's just important to, have a plan in place, how much income you want, and just start doing something on it.
All right, Stephanie, moving to a few final questions. But just wondered your thoughts on what you predict, right? In the real estate market over the next 6, 12, 8 months, or 18 months rather, and how that's affecting what you're doing, right? Where you're investing or whatnot. I feel like nobody has that crystal ball. However, what we believe affects what we do, right? And so I just wondered how your expectations of the real estate markets affecting what you're doing.
I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. I know people are all talking about that they foresee like a crash and things like that, but I personally, I've invested in a lot of every multifamily project I've done. And I think it's just really important to be conscious of the market you're investing in. Really, I encourage a lot of people to do a Wikipedia, even search on the market that they're looking at. Is it growing? Is the population growing? What kind of economic support this? Is it just is it many things in this market that's growing the economy or whatnot? I am looking at getting out of, I think we'll be cycling out of 3 this year. And I'm planning myself to personally buy retail in some growing markets around where I live, so that I can be what I've invested in the past has been a few states away. So it's hard to be on top of everything, but I'm looking at actually retail in some real fast growing markets around where I live. So I'm not really holding off. I think, depending on who you talk to, they say interest rates, they think may have leveled, and other people think they're going to keep going up. But the great thing about that is, even if you choose to if you buy a good deal, you can change the financing if it makes sense with the current financing. I think that's what you need to make that move. If it's a good deal, go for it.
What's the biggest challenge in your business right now?
For me, talking to people about other alternative ways of getting their finances in order, and kind of struggling with everybody thinks they need to do it in one way, and so I think that's always a challenge for me anyways.
What about some habits that you are disciplined about that have produced the highest return for you?
I'm a very hardworking person, so I just believe that you have to have your goals in front of you, broken down to a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and what you're trying to achieve in that period of time. And everything comes down to numbers. For me, no matter what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about, you got to talk to a certain number of people to make something happen for me.
And how do you like to give back?
I love to give back. I do a lot with the Rotary Club, and we do lots of different things around the community. Doing things for the seniors. I really love doing that. I do that out of my church as well, is just visiting and supporting them in the best way that you can. That's sort of what's close to my heart. But I also, volunteer in my son's school, which is really fun.
That is fun. Well, Stephanie, grateful to have you back on the show and really just expose us to some strategies, thoughts that we didn't know or wouldn't have known, right? Unless somebody brings it up like yourself, especially when typically some of them have only been available to the ultra wealthy, right? Most of us have not heard of those things or wouldn't know that they're available to us now. And so grateful for that. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you and your book.
Yeah, you guys can reach me on my website, which is www.erbewealth.com. And if right on there, you can order the book, and it's free for people, because I just want to expose as many people as I can to it. So you can either download it or get a copy of it. And on that website, you can request a call with me. And there's a lot of great educational material on there as well. So that would be a great place to start.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.